He was the most popular novelist of his era, and from his childhood until his death, he had a colorful life. The great Charles Dickens, what's myth and what is truth?
Let's dig into this.
Charles Dickens was born in February of 1812. He was the second child of the 8 children of Elizabeth and John Dickens. His father was a clerk in the Royal Navy Pay Office, and he was transferred several times, finally in London in 1822, where he worked at Somerset House. The low pay he received as a clerk made it difficult for John Dickens to keep up with the mounting household bills.
After the move to London, the debts increased to the point where the family had to sell everything they owned to try to pay them off. All household goods, from furniture to silverware to linens and clothing, were all sold, but the family still could not keep up. John Dickens was taken to debtor's prison in February of 1824. His wife and 4 youngest children went with him.
Charles was 12 years old when his family went to Marshalsea Prison. Forced to leave school and move in with a poor but kind old lady named Mrs. Roylance, he went to work at a shoe blacking factory. He made 6 shillings a week pasting labels on polished tins.
John Dickens was released after 3 months when his mother died, leaving him more than enough money in her will to pay off the debt. The family all moved in with Miss Roylance, but Charles' mother would not allow him to quit his job. He worked at the factory for 3 years, and he never forgave her for it. But he didn't hold the difficult experience against his father, calling him a happy opportunist with no money sense.
John Dickens would go to debtor's prison twice, with Charles paying off his debts the second time with money borrowed from friends. Immediately after his release, John Dickens began a letter-writing campaign, begging for more money from the friends who had already made loans to his son.
He would embarrass Charles for years, begging for money from his publishers and acquaintances, and selling what papers he had from Charles's early years. Eventually, Charles rented a cottage away from the city for his parents, hoping the embarrassing episodes would stop. They didn't.
John Dickens died in 1851, and the headstone he shares with his wife says a lot. He was the inspiration for the character of Wilkins Micawber, the eternal optimist in Dickens' semi-autobiographical novel, David Copperfield.
Charles Dickens wanted to be an actor. Actually, he wanted to be famous, and saw acting as a way to get the accolades he craved. He prepared for an audition at Covent Garden, but missed the opportunity due to a cold, so he became a writer.
His first story, called A Dinner at Poplar Walk, was published in 1833 when he was just 21. It wasn't a huge success. He was also working as a political journalist, covering parliamentary debates and election campaigns. He began to move in a circle of writers he admired and met men he would eventually collaborate with. Sketches by Boz, published in 1836, under the pseudonym he used for several years, was a moderate success. And then came the Pickwick Papers.
The first few monthly installments of the story were not successful, but the fourth episode, Dickens introduced Sam Weller, a wisecracking but warm-hearted character that became a phenomenon. And the Pickwick Papers were just a huge hit, inspiring copycat spin-offs and massive merchandising campaigns, selling everything from playing cards to boot polish. And his fame grew. He started writing Oliver Twist.
His works made him the most popular writer of his era, and his works have never gone out of print. He also became the conscience of Victorian England.
Dickens married Catherine Hogarth in 1836, and the couple had 10 children over the next 15 years. Catherine also wrote publishing What Shall We Have for Dinner in 1851 under the pseudonym Lady Maria Clutterbuck. Domestic manuals were extremely popular at the time, and Catherine's book was a modest success.
Dickens eventually became distant from Catherine, blaming her for their extremely large family. Separate beds with a bookshelf in between didn't seem to do the trick, so he insisted on separate bedrooms, with the door connecting the 2 rooms nailed shut. He would later try and have Catherine committed to an asylum, calling her increasingly incompetent. It was not rare for husbands to put their wives away in the era, but Dickens wasn't successful. They would separate in 1858, with Catherine moving into her own home among accusations of Dickens having an affair with two different women. One was Catherine's sister.
Dickens had supposedly met successful, but reportedly not exceptionally talented actress Ellen Ternan in 1857. He was 45. She was 18, just 6 months older than Dickens' youngest daughter, Katie. While she is often named as Dickens' mistress, there is no known evidence of this. But Catherine Dickens had supposedly received a package shortly before their 1858 separation that contained jewelry and a note meant for Ellen Ternan.
Starting in 1860, Ternan retired from the stage and was supported by Dickens until his death in 1870. He left her £1,000 when he died, the exact amount he also left to an unmarried daughter, leading to speculation that Ellen was actually his illegitimate daughter. He also left money to his best and truest friend, Catherine's sister Georgina.
Dickens had published Oliver Twist in 1838 as a satire of the extremely rough lives of children in English cities. It was a subject he felt deeply about. By 1843, he was so disturbed by the desperate plight of the poor, he intended to publish a political pamphlet on the subject called An Appeal to the People of England on Behalf of the Poor Man's Child.
Fortunately, he reconsidered. A Christmas Carol was the result. Released on December 19th, the first edition sold out by Christmas Eve of 1843. The following year, an incredible 12 more editions would be released. In 1849, Dickens started giving public readings of his story and would give 128 performances before his death in 1870. The book has never been out of print.
On June 9, 1865, Dickens was traveling to London from Paris with Ellen Ternan. The Staplehurst train crash killed 10 when the train's first 7 carriages plunged off a cast iron bridge. Dickens' first class car was left dangling off the bridge. Rescuers didn't arrive for 3 hours. Dickens helped tend to the injured and the dying with fresh water carried in a hat and a flask of brandy he'd managed to rescue. He would later write The Signalman, based partially on his experiences.
Some biographers believe he may have sustained injuries in this crash that later contributed to his death. 4 years after the crash, while completing a whirlwind tour of Scotland, Ireland, and England, giving 100 farewell readings, Dickens had a stroke on April 18th of 1869. He had given 87 readings in less than 7 months.
He continued his tour but collapsed just 4 days later, and the remaining readings were canceled. Returning home, he started writing The Mystery of Edwin Drood. He had another stroke on June 8th of 1870 after a long day working on the story. He never regained consciousness and died the following day. He was 58 years old.
Ignoring his wishes to have a small, inexpensive burial at Rochester Cathedral, he was placed in Poets' Corner at Westminster Abbey and recognized as one of England's greatest writers.
Thanks for watching,
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
and we'll see you on the next one.
Hey, here's another Dragon Den video you might like.
And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button.
And you can hit the notification bell if you'd like to know when our videos come out.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.